apologize in advance for anybody that's offended. Any letters here?
S.
There's some obvious ones. I? No.
I like hanging the guys.
You.
Really, you're not very good.
A. D.
Hey, hold on, slow down.
E.
D. E. I'm sorry. Which? Giving you a vowels first.
E.
E. I heard an S. Give you guys that.
H.
Very good. No.
X.
The vowel. Right here, E.
L. L.
First time I gave this talk was to Stanford Business School. And unlike you guys, 10 minutes into it, I had to write down what it was. And they still didn't know. And then they usually get their MBA and go out into the world, and a few years later, still don't know what that word is. And they have a rude awakening once they get out there and try to start business and realize that it's something that somehow completely missed them in college, and then in life got so down the priority scale it never really became important to them until it was probably too late. So what I want to talk about here is the topic of this class, which has nothing to do with that, right? We're talking about building companies. So we're going to go through it, and I'm not here to teach you about all these things. That's what all the things in the class I know. Bob's going to talk about financing and raising money in a little bit, and I'm sure you're going to hear lots and lots from your mentors and stuff on every one of these topics. But let's go through them real quick just to review. How do you build a company? Well, you start by discussing the idea. You guys have done that. You brainstorm. You have to go out and get your first customer, right? And then after you get your first customer, you got to go raise money, right? You all heard that one. You got to raise money. Then you got to go build some relationships with the analysts, the bloggers, the press, everyone out there. You have to recruit. You hear that a lot. I'm going to have to recruit management teams. I'm going to have to hire employees. I'm going to have to identify potential suppliers. I'm going to have to market to my customers. I'm going to have to find partners. I'm going to have to select iBankers. I'm going to go public. I'm going to get rich. And I'm going to do this all over again, right? Done. We're learning? Wrong. That's how you fail at a company. This is how you build a winning company. You actually have to go out and you have to sell your dream. You have to sell your customers, sell the VCs, sell the bloggers and analysts, the management team you're going to recruit, the other employees, your suppliers, your partners, your iBankers, and then sell, sell, sell quarter after quarter after quarter. And there's a gentleman in the room who is your fearless leader, Dr. Metcalf, who can tell you that this slide was his experience. It's certainly mine. So let's go through it. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by this. And for those of you who had any selling experience, sales guys always talk about when they have who's the customer, what's the sales objective, what skill do you need to do it, and then I'm going to give you a little example. Sell. So we're going to go through these, and I'm going to try to make my point. And so let's start with selling the dream. Okay, who's the customer of that sales cycle? Oh, it could be your friends, your family, your coworkers. I can see it right here. Your professor in the room, even, or more importantly, anyone who will listen to you. What's your sales objective? You've got to get feedback, sounding board, moral support, a reality check, short-term financial support, networking, building the team. What skill do you need? Proof that you're not completely insane. What did we do at Trilogy? In 1991, just a little brief, you've heard probably a little about Trilogy. Big success in the 90s. It was a 10-year run. One of the mentors, Chris Taylor here, was in half of it. Josh was here for a big part of it. We've got some other Trilogy mentors sitting around the room here, Tony and such. And what we did was we went from 0 to 250 million of revenue. We took a part of the company public in something called PC Order. All huge success. With that said, selling the dream started off with us selling Joe's dad to give us a loan, and then selling the other founders to essentially stop focusing on their classes at Stanford and go do this crazy idea of going and building a company. We didn't suggest they dropped out, but it clearly wasn't going to be good for their grades. So, the first customer. Who's the first customer? anyone who will buy your product. There's a reason for that. Your sales objective points that reason out, because food, shelter, and nowadays, which is interesting, this presentation was built 12 years ago, water actually doesn't appear to be free anymore. You pay for it everywhere, but it was in 1999. Your sales objective is to eat and to get a reference. Anybody, anywhere that will say, wow, that is real, there really is something there. Build on that later. What skills do you need? You need to develop a hearing problem. Because there is no good reason. I know you guys, how many companies are represented here now? About 20? 20. There is not a single reason that you guys could give that can rationally justify that your company should exist to any rational human being. Because there's 2 or 3 of you. Your idea is going to be bigger than the moon, and the chances of you getting to it for a rational human being is going to be an irrational proposition. So, when you find one person out there, one company, anyone that says, you know what, I like this, sell them, get it done, get the deal. How do we do that? HP, our first big customer. So, we had to get a customer. We were in the Silicon Valley. We were selling a computer configurator. Everybody's messing with computers, pretty complicated pieces of equipment. Big ones are even more complicated. That's what we did. Simple value prop. We said, well, there's all these computer companies everywhere. Which one are we going to sell to? Well, anybody familiar with Palo Alto? We were on California Street in downtown Palo Alto. We decided we were going to sell to HP. Anybody have any idea why I decided to sell to HP? Because they were 2 blocks up the street and we didn't have any money. So we couldn't fly anywhere and we had no money. So we said, well, let's sell to them because we could just walk over there a lot. So we walked over to HP and knocked on the door and we found who here cares about computer configurator. We found them and they said, we don't want to talk to you. And we said, okay, that didn't go very well. We went back to the office and we said, okay, well, we might have a problem here because they don't seem to want one. We said, well, we can't fly anywhere, so we have to sell them. So there were 5 of us. And I was elected the sales guy. Now let's be clear. I graduated in engineering from Texas in '82, guys. Electrical engineering, computer science, back when computer science was not looked upon favorably in engineering. So I was a walking, a psychopath here. And I went out here, from here, to research and did artificial intelligence research at Shell Development for 6 years. Any room I walked into, I was the smartest guy in the room. Self-proclaimed. That does not make a good sales guy. We'll talk about that in a minute. I looked around, there was 4 Stanford kids, and I mean kids because they were only 19, Bob can attest to that, and I was the ripe old age of like 27. So I was elected the sales guy because I was the old guy. They could walk into a company and not be 19. It's irrational. So what do you do when you get elected the sales guy? What you guys do in your companies? Who's going to be the sales guy? Raise your hand, because somebody's going to have to sell something, right? I just proved that to you. So who's going to be the sales guy? Okay. What are you going to do? You're an engineer. What are you doing? You get a problem. What are you going to do? You're going to read a book, right? Read a book. Go get a book. Read a book. Or go to the web now and just read something, right? So I read a couple books, and they said, this is how you sell. So I said that the name of the book was called Letter to Vito. Vito. Sorry for the Italians in here. Vito. And I was like, Letter to Vito? It was like a book about the mafia or something. So you read this book, and it was talking about you've got to sell high and go into the seniorest executive out there. That's who Vito was. And you got to convince him, and then he'll tell the little people under him to buy your stuff. So I thought, oh, I like this. This is going to be great. So I wrote a letter to, at the time, his name was Lou Platt, the CEO of HP, which was, I don't know how many billion, you would know better than me, but it was a $30, $40 billion company at the time. And, this is 1990. And I didn't get a response. CEO of HP didn't write me back. And I thought, I read the book, said do this, and I didn't. So I wrote more letters. And more letters. I thought, but just keep writing letters, because that's what the thing says. Well, write to this, tell the secretary. And then it said, if that's not working, call and ask if they got your letter. I started doing that. I called him. And then finally we get a letter back from HP. I have one piece of memorabilia in 30 years of my career in technology and startups, and 6 startups. I have one piece of memorabilia. It's framed, it sits on my wall. It used to sit in my office at Trilogy. And it's the letter from HP. It's from the office of the CEO of HP. It wasn't signed by Lou Platt, it was signed by his number 2 guy at the time. I'm sure he sweated over writing it. The letter is very short. It's 2 sentences. It said, "Dear Mr. Price, thank you very much for your interest in selling your configurator to Hewlett-Packard." It said, "We already have a solution to that problem, and we are unfortunately not interested in your configurator at this time." Signed, the most senior executive, number 2 guy, who became number 1 guy after Mr. Platt. And I took that letter because the other book I read said, you have to get no 7 times before it's no. I thought, shit, I've got a couple of lives left here. I'm not done. Put that letter in a file, didn't think about it again. 6 months later, we signed a $3 million deal with Hewlett-Packard. 5 guys, a girl, something that resembled software, and only resembled it. And we got that deal. Got to get that first customer. No does not mean no. You got to believe. You don't have to have skills initially. You just have to not take no. Second, you're about to hear about raising money. Everyone talks about raising money. I always see these entrepreneurs come to you. Oh, hey, so what do I have to do to raise money? I'm like, well, I'll tell you one thing. You're going to have to learn how to sell. You first have to start by selling yourself. Number 1 thing, Bob was going to talk to you about it, but he was a VC. Number 1 thing VCs invest in, anybody know? People. People. Gotta be able to sell yourself. So, you're going to go raise money, you're going to have to go sell people that have money to believe in you, your idea. The sales objective, food, shelter, water. Guys, you're going out of business. The only thing true about every startup is every day you wake up, you're either going out of business or you have another day. It's a great way to live your life. I've done it for 30 years. It's wonderful. Every day. Going out of business or you're getting another day. So, that's your objective, the skills you need to raise money. I don't hear anybody laughing, but this, unfortunately, is more true than it's humorous. But you take a dollar bill, you tear it into very, very many, very, very small pieces, put 2 of those pieces in your pocket, never think about them again. For a second round, if you have to go raise more money, give 1 of those pieces back. That's what you have left of your company in a lot of situations. If you're good, if you're really good at selling, you can do better than that. And you do that through a complicated process that Bob and other people will smarter than me could teach you about. But the idea is you can give up less of your company if you get them to believe more in your company and that the value of your company is much higher than any sane person with a calculator would ever be able to compute. Because if you get a rational analyst, they're going to go, no. Their revenue last year was 35 cents. How could they be worth $10 million? Well, you heard that guy's pitch? Holy moly. It's got to be worth $10 million, right? So that's what we're talking about here. We had an amazing evaluation of the company at Trilogy. It was about this time, there were 7 of us. We gave about 20% of the company for $4 million. The more impressive part of that is that we never had to spend a dime of it, which was a very interesting run. Now you've got to get people outside of your family who no longer like you because of the way you chose to live your life to start believing in you. These are the analysts, the bloggers, whoever out there in the ecosystem. I know we have everything from high-tech startups in here to car companies to whatever. It's all the same. Somebody outside the ecosystem has to validate you. And you've got to be able to do that. Your sales objective. You want to be on the cover of Forbes. You want to get more customers because you got your first customer and you want to make your mom proud. And that last one shows up more than you realize in most founders. How do you do it? In 1999, you had to work words like Monica Lewinsky and impeachment into anything you said. Because the journalist is sleeping while you're pitching your brilliant idea of an electric engine, and then you have to say something, like jobs or anything. You just throw it in there. We used to take, Chris Taylor, who's one of your mentors here, we used to have a game we played. We'd go on sales calls, a Trilogy, and we'd take a phrase, And we could say, whoever can work this phrase into the sales call the most number of times got to make everybody else do the shots after the sales call. So, you know, he got to be the disher out. And I'll let you guys work it out, Chris, what some of those phrases were. Because you can do interesting things when you concatenate words together in a sentence. So I'll let Chris explain that one. With that said, we were able to, by selling, and I mean selling, back to something only that resembled software. We sold, and we believed in it. We believed what we were doing. We believed we could catch up with it, the wind we had in our sails. We not only sold the industry luminaries, we got an article in the Wall Street Journal, and we got on the cover of Forbes multiple times. It can be done. It's all how good you sell. You got to go sell your management team. This one's a fun one. I'm experiencing this one right now at Vast. Again, you want to talk to successful people that have real jobs. Now let's think about this. Your sales executive is to get them to give up everything for the hope of more sometime in the distant future. That's your value prop, right? Because they have a good job. They're already a manager at some company doing very well, making a high salary. You want to become your startup. The only problem is you really don't have the money to pay them, and you've got to sell them the same dream that you are now believing in to come for the hope of the future. The skills is a study of prenuptial law. The point there is more people run into unbelievable personal stress in making this decision to take a senior manager and pull them into a startup, and can cause all kinds of interesting turmoil in their lives. We had a fun one. At Trilogy, the first adult we hired, real adult, because I still haven't grown up yet, was our CFO. His name was Wade Monroe. It's Wade Monroe. Amazing CFO. One of the best finance guys out there. We had to talk him into kind of selling him, oh my God, this is so cool, computer configure. He had no idea what we were talking about. He was a finance guy. He had no idea. He didn't really care. He's just looking at us going, okay, why in the world would I do this? These kids are still drinking way too much beer. They work hours that I like to be sleeping, and just nothing added up for him. But we needed a CFO. Somehow we sold him. So he came, and here's how we rewarded him. When Trilogy was in the heat of the 90s, and we were really going and growing, we added 500, 600, 700 college kids. Like 100 or so a year from 95 to the year 2000. When we did that, we got a little concerned because we encouraged them to work hard and play hard, because they were in Austin, they were 22. What to do? So we felt, as a management team, we needed to make sure we took good care of them. So we issued every employee at Trilogy, a free cab card. You just had to get, if you went out on 6th Street and you went drinking, don't drive home. That was our message. Do not drive home. Here's a card, just wave it to the cab guy, and you get a free ride home, wherever it is, and you get drive back to your car the next day. It was a huge success. We were spending $15,000, sometimes $20,000 in a month paying cab, yellow cab, to drive our employees around. And we felt great about it. Think how safe everybody was as a result of that. We thought that was fantastic. There was only one catch. Everybody somehow got together and decided, when you got in the cab, we asked the cab car, they asked you who your name was, and everybody said their name was Wade Monroe. Wade was our CFO. So he was the finance guy, and he get this we said, well, there's this $20,000 cab bill. It's Wade Monroe's been taking the drunk drive home every single night. It was fantastic. So for me this time around, and this is going to hit on another point that Bob Metcalf reminded me of in his talk at Demo Day, which is second time's a charm. If you build a team, and you go through all that the first time, and you do some good stuff, the second time you go to do something, it's much easier to go get that team to come do it again. So build a great team, and you guys can be together for a long time. Next thing you gotta do, you gotta recruit. Recruiting is one of my favorite topics. Because basically, in tech, which is where I grew up, there's really only two jobs. Can you guys guess what they are? You're either doing one of two things. What are they? One's on the board. So you're either selling something or building something. It's really not that complicated of a business. There are more complicated businesses. I think running American Airlines would be an unbelievably complicated business. I would not like the idea that at any moment in time, a plane could come falling out of the sky and a whole bunch of people blow up. I don't like that. That's not what tech is. Tech is, you just sell something, or you build something. So there's one problem with that, is there's no like machines or anything that build something. It's people build something. You need people. So Trilogy, we're going gangbusters, boom, 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 and all of a sudden, we couldn't hire anybody. We could hire plenty of people that weren't any good, but we couldn't hire good people. So we had to recruit. There isn't an entrepreneur alive that started a company of any magnitude of success that didn't learn this lesson too late of how to sell recruits and how to get people to come work for your company. There's two types of people you can hire. You can hire people who already have a job in industry, or you can hire college kids like you who don't know better and can be convinced of all kinds of things. We did both, but erred to the college kid model, which you guys have a distinct advantage at because you guys have your friends. You can build companies right out of here. And guys, we all know all the stories. Google was a bunch of you guys going off and building Google. Facebook similar. You don't have to go crack the industry hiring thing where you have to hire real people to like have kids and they have to feed them. It gets real complicated. You know, you just have college kids and go for it. The other thing is, there aren't that many real people that actually are out there that have the skills you need, so you're better off sucking it up and realizing you're going to have to develop those skills anyway, so start with the raw talent that you have and build it. We discovered over the years of Trilogy, and I continue to believe in it at VAST, that expertise beats experience every day of the week. So recruit people that you believe can, as rapidly as possible, develop the expertise that you need. And who cares what they did before? It doesn't matter. And most of the time, I don't ask. We had a logo. We had every campus in the country that we wanted to recruit out of. Giving away t-shirts all over the place. That's why Joss has a t-shirt addiction. We gave it to him, it's our fault. And it started with a t-shirt that just said Trilogy, only the best. And that became cult-like and it worked. Except for the campuses we got thrown off. Selling to suppliers. This is when people go, selling to suppliers, what are you talking about? I'm going to pick one right here. Sales objective. Anything you need that you don't have right now. Okay? That's a supplier. Let's pick one. You need a space. Okay, it's an interesting thing about startups is you actually need a place. Do you guys know that the coffee shops colluded and decided to work together to get entrepreneurs out? Because they were like, these guys, they're coming in here and they're sitting out at the computer, they buy one cup of coffee and then they sit here for 6 hours. Well, they can't make money that way. They don't want us in their coffee shops. I like it, they don't want it. So you actually need space. There's a problem. You don't have any money, you have no history, and you have no commitments of any business, and leases. Anybody sign a lease anytime? Just lease for college. I mean, what's the minimum, a year lease? I always thought that was the dumbest thing. I'm a college student. A year, are you kidding? Even if I make it through 2 semesters, that's still only 9 months. What's the year for? Is that just the penalty box? I am getting out of here in the summer. I mean, give me a break, but who's going to give you a 9-month lease? I haven't seen one. Well, you go out in the real world, that lease starts at 5 years, and you negotiate them down to 3. You have $50,000 that you raised from friends and family, and you're signing a 5-year lease for a couple $1,000s a month. That doesn't work. So what do you have to do? How do you make that work? You gotta sell them. You're actually going to be a really big company, and you're going to take more and more space. In fact, you're going to take all the space in their whole building because all these customers are just beating your doors down. And your idea is going to change the world. And they look at you and they scratch their head. If they like you, you get those terms changed. And you get a lease. But guys, you have to sell your suppliers. Every one of them. You've got to sell them to believe in you. Hey, let me just pay by the drink till I get these things going here. Got to sell your customers. We talked about that. Who's a customer? Anybody left out that we haven't covered that will buy your product. You need the revenue to stay in business. Very obvious. And the skill is, get ready to start running around. Selling doesn't happen when you're sitting in a chair. It just doesn't happen. Ask how many miles that guy next to you has on his frequent flyers. He has lots of them. Then you got to sell partners. Partners are interesting. This is a whole expertise of mine, is that I became what's called a business developer. It means you work with partners to make things happen. The biggest skill here is to convince partners that selling what you have is more important and more valuable than what they have. It's a gestalt, if you will. We went into Kelley Blue Book at VAST. Anybody ever heard of Kelley Blue Book? 100-year-old company that nowadays it's really going out of style because of the Web 2.0 stuff. But Kelley Blue Book is, a big company. It just got bought, just so you guys know, for $600 million by AutoTrader, a bigger company, a big company. So we went out to Kelley Blue Book about 2 years ago. VAST does. We do a white-labeled vertical search engine. So we kind of pick up where Google leaves off in the categories we're in, like auto, travel, and real estate. So we go to Kelley Blue Book. We're sitting there with the CEO, and he said, well, why? I'm Kelley Blue Book. You guys, this little startup, you have inventory cars. I can get that anywhere. What's your guys' deal? I said, look, put up a slide. Let's take the first slide. It showed a picture of Google that said Kelley Blue Book, the Google of automotive search. You guys look just like, what are you guys talking about? I said, your vision's not big enough. Right now, you're all about just telling. Why do you go to Kelley Blue Book? Anybody know? About your car. So you've been kind of doing that for 100 years. You want to grow? You want to be the Google of automotive. We got the search. You got the brand. Let's put your brand on top of our search, and let's just leapfrog the whole industry. 2 months after that, he turned down an $18 million guaranteed check. Guaranteed check from AutoTrader, who bought the tab. You guys, I know, are following me. He had a search for automotive. It just was a tab that you clicked on it and it went to AutoTrader, the biggest auto site on the web. We told him that was dumb because you've got the customer in KBB. Let's make it KBB. 2 months, he turned down an $18 million check in his hand and signed up. We had no money to give him, zero, for the vision of being the Google search of automotive. 2 years after that, after a real successful run at it, AutoTrader had to buy Kelley Blue Book for $600 million to take them out because they were starting to threaten their lifeblood. That is absolutely how it works. So you like your idea may even be better if you can just get out of your own way and think, what if I give it to somebody else, call it theirs, but make money off of it? Right? Some of you follow that. Okay, next. Selling investment bankers. Bob might get to this in his, but once you get down the road, when you get ready to take a company public, you got to go out and convince investment bankers to take you public. Sales objective is anyone will take you public because you want to sell your stock. You got to convince them they should want to sell your stock more than sell other people's stock. This is no lie. That's relatively true, right? Your stock's incredibly valuable. And your skill is how to always say shareholder value when you're talking to them instead of selling. Believe me, you have to learn this stuff. We took PC Order public. We had an unbelievably successful IPO. It was fantastic. And we were able to go out and convince the iBankers to take us out, which led us to Wall Street, where once you're public, you get to do this over and over again. Because every quarter that you hopefully don't miss, in 1999, you had to always work in the word e-commerce. Nowadays, you have to work in the word social. The point is, let me ask you a question. Anybody here ever listen to a quarterly report financial call? I only have one assignment for all of you, and it happens next month. Josh will make sure you guys do it. Apple does their quarterly call. It's public. You just can go on to Apple's site, and they iTunes it. And you have to listen to an Apple quarterly call. You will learn more about things you didn't even know you didn't know listening to that call. Usually goes about an hour, then the analysts ask them questions. Nobody handles it better than Apple. And all of you know Apple products, so you get it. So you're going to be interested in the call. It'll blow your mind how this all works, and you will learn a lot. But what you will see is how to sell Wall Street, which they do quarter after quarter after quarter. And it's a brilliant, brilliant thing. The only other thing I'll recommend is a book that is one from the 90s that I still swear by. It's my Bible at Vass, and I can summarize it for you that those of you too busy to read, which is called Built to Last. Bob, I don't know if you had read that one, but great, great book in the late 90s.
First book I read the trilogy.
We made everybody read it when they came in the door, but basically, you can summarize it in this. You guys are trying to build a company. You're going to have a lot of problems. You know what a problem is in a startup? Option value. You know what I mean by that? You're a startup. You got stock options, and you're worth a lot of money someday. Right now, they're not worth a lot of money. Because why? Because you have a lot of problems that you have to solve. As you solve those problems, what do you think happens to that option value? It goes up. So every day you come into your startup and you have a problem, you need to get super excited because you have an opportunity to increase the value of your company, which is reflected in the value of your stock options, which eventually end up in your bank account. So if you don't look at problems that way, go work at another company. Do not do a startup. Because the only thing I guarantee you is you've got problems from today in this class till the very end when you decide you're done with this. And every day you'll either look at those problems as something that if I solve that problem, I create even more value for this company. My company grows, it's phenomenal. Or if I don't, not good. Value starts going the other way. Okay. My point was the way to think about solving problems is make sure you have the right people. Back to people as the capital. Make sure they're doing you have them in the right roles and they're doing the right things. That sounds so obvious. Trust me. You get to 10 people and you're going to start getting that wrong. Go back to it, keep reading it. Right people, right roles, right things. Okay. Okay, everybody. We're going to have a little exercise at school. So I thought I could teach at school. I haven't been on campus in a role like this for 30 years, guys. Last time I was in those seats, they were making me take tests, and it sucked. So we're going to have some fun. I get to make you guys do something. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Everybody's going to have to stand up. It'll be quick. It'll be short. Stand up. Okay, the person on the right is going to, you're pairing off in twos. And if there's an odd number, just make it 3. And the person on the right of the couple, everybody read this. This is all the information you have. The person on the right is the salesperson. You have just invented a revolutionary new technique. It's a research-based program for strength training, bodybuilding, and complete fitness in nothing more than 12 minutes a week. Turn to the person, invented and built by doctors. Turn to the person on your left and sell them on switching whatever they do for exercise or adopting your technique. Go. All I spent 20 minutes telling you have to sell, and I just gave you an opportunity to go sell. Anybody want to volunteer? Who thinks they did well? So, some of the receivers on the left, tell me somebody who did well.
Chris Taylor.
He doesn't count. He cheated. Anybody else? Anybody do well? Is anybody convinced that they ought to do that? Or interested? This, by the way, is a what? That's a real doctor. Somebody should be interested, right? Okay? Let's go through it. Let's go through why you might not have been super successful at selling. There's a little bit of a setup. It's not too much. Let's start with the top 10 list. Number 10. Know everything about your product or service. Obviously, you guys didn't have much information to go by. Next one of my favorites, dress appropriately. So I'm going to spend 1 second on this one. Somebody tell me what dress appropriately. What does John Price after 30 years of selling, or 24 after I decided I need to learn how to do it? What does dress appropriately mean in a selling situation?
Someone once told me one level above everyone.
That's interesting. Anybody have any other one?
What you're actually selling has to be appropriate to what you're wearing.
I think that's a good point too. I think you guys are on the right. Yeah, somebody know?
Depends on your audience.
I think that's even closer. So my experience, just my experience, is I actually don't want to dress one level more, but I want to match. It's basically, who's my audience? And I want them to not notice me as any different than they are. Anybody Woody Allen fans here, or do people even watch him anymore? I'm really old, but Woody Allen is really cool. And you guys should watch all his movies. He got a bad rap there for a while, but he's really cool. He did some really good movies. And there was one that didn't do very well called Zelig. It was brilliant. Anybody seen that movie? Zelig, great movie. In Zelig, he'd walk up to a baseball player and start talking to him, and he was so insecure that he would like start transforming into a baseball player. And then he'd walk up to a rabbi and he'd start growing a beard and look like a rabbi. It was just a really weird movie. Well, Woody Allen's a weird guy. So, but he taught us something in that movie that I really thought was interesting, is we'll try to match people. Because when you start to match, they get more comfortable, and you get more comfortable when you do that. That's all I mean. But to dress appropriately, there's not a right or wrong way. Get as much information you can about your audience and try to match them. Yeah.
So why do you feel everyone wears like an Armani suit and I can afford the Armani suit?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. By the way, the overdressing thing, the risk of the overdressing, I do do this. There's a good point there, but the risk of it is you'll be perceived as the sales guy in the room, which is the last thing you want to be perceived as. You want to be perceived as somebody who's going to be helpful. Okay. This one, number 8, guys. All you guys, this one is a big one. Learn how to give a great demo, guys. It's so important. There's this tech sales guy. He dies, and next thing he knows, he's up at the pearly gates and he's trying to get in. He said, "So-and-so, we didn't expect to see you here." Well, why? He said, "Well, this place is like real peaceful and tranquil, and we're a lot of violins and people floating around with wings." I said, "You just haven't really lived your life like that's the way you want to be." He goes, "Well, what are my choices?" He goes, "Well, you can go check out the other place if you want. If you want to come back here, it's up to you." He said, "Well, the sales guy goes, check it out. I get to come back." So he goes down to hell. Knocks on the door. Door opens. It's a Ray. Party! I mean, they are partying. It is awesome. And he's just like, wow, people drinking, partying, having the best time. He goes back up to St. Peter. He says, "St. Peter, no offense, but I think I'm going to go there. I think you're right. I'm more comfortable." So he goes back down, knocks on the gates of hell, and his hand burns. And he's like, "What?" The door flings open, and Satan's standing there, and hellfire, and brimstones, and people screaming and gnashing of teeth. And he goes, "What just happened? I was just here, and it was the most amazing party in the world." And Satan said, "That was a demo." You guys need to learn how to give a good demo. Along with that, you have to give a great presentation. You've got to learn how to present. Just do it over and over again. You got with you here Josh, who is just an excellent presenter, can give you lots and lots of tips. Learn how to sell value, the value in what you have. You've got to sell value, not price. Become a Lounge Lizard Evangelist. Another great book, if you just want to read a fun, great book, read Selling the Dream by Guy Kawasaki. He was the evangelist on the original Mac team back when Steve Jobs got it all started. Fantastic guy, fantastic ideas. Creating Lounge Lizard Evangelist is one of his chapters, and it's all about you got to believe if you want someone else to believe. Back to selling that body, that exercise technique. If the person you're selling to doesn't believe you're doing it and believing it and living it, like an evangelist would, you're never selling it. Know everything about your customer. Back to the early one, dressing. And as I move up my priority list, from my experiences, as you move up, you'll learn how to position. You guys understand generally what I mean by that? You gotta learn how to position things very early on. You know, there are gonna be things when you're an early stage company that you don't have yet. So don't wait till the last minute for them to discover that. You know, start positioning early on that, you know, hey, there's some things that we're still working on, and so that when it finally comes down to it, they're like, okay, yeah, you know, you kind of already positioned that and this, and I'm getting more and more comfortable with you. No surprises. Learn how to position everything. Become an expert listener. This is what I had by 26 years old, coming out of Shell Research, went to my first startup, and I got partnered up with a sales guy because I was the AI evangelist. And I spent a year traveling with this guy. I thought he was the dumbest guy on the planet. I think I called him every name I can think of. Some of them weren't very complimentary. And I used to argue with him and say, you know, we go into these meetings. I do all the selling. I'm the one talking. I'm convincing them how great we are and how our product works. You just sit there. And I don't know what else you do when you talk, but it doesn't seem to make much sense to me. And he looked at me and he said, well, that is your point of view of it. And then he called me all the names he could come up with and think of. A year after that, we had become best friends, traveling together for years. We'd never gotten together as couples. We get together as couples once, and we sit down at the table, and my wife looks and meets him and says, oh, so you're the a-hole. His wife looks at me and goes, oh, so you're the... I won't even say that. and me and him just slid down our chairs because that's how we started our relationship. Because he was the sales guy and I knew nothing about selling. He was a listener. The reason he wasn't talking when I was so busy talking was he was listening. And he was reading the room. He was figuring everything out. Figuring out how to position. Figuring out what their needs were while I was busy shooting my mouth off. And the last one, and by far the most important one, is to learn how to ask great questions. Okay. I'm going to give you the formula. We're ready to wrap up here. This is the lesson. You can pop quiz someday out of this. Spin Selling. Everyone at Trilogy had to go through it. Everyone. We made engineers take this. Spin Selling. It's a great book, but I can summarize it for you. You're smart guys. You don't need to read the book. Okay? S is for situation questions. Call it fact finding. So, situation questions. So, are you married? No. Do you like running? You do. So, oh, she's a runner. Okay. Do you have any injuries?
Yes.
Okay. Just fact finding, right? I mean, just facts. Now, how long? What's your name?
Mariel.
Mariel. How long can I do this before I'm irritating the crap out of you?
20 seconds.
Maybe a couple more seconds, right? But the first few, she's like, okay, one of these questions. But if he keeps asking me questions like that, I'm gonna smack him, right? But I get some time. I get to ask some fact finding. Got to get good at those. Ask your fact-finding questions up front. Got to get some data because you don't know who you're selling to. Then from that, okay, what did I learn? She had an injury. She's a runner. She has an injury. Obviously, I'm back to my body by science thing. She's running. She has an injury. Running. You got to spend a lot of time running to get an injury. I have a 12-minute exercise program, right? And I'm thinking, so what problems? Tell me more about that injury. What kind of problems are you having?
I have a bunion.
You have a bunion. That's really a problem if you're a runner. I guess you step on that all the time. Follow on to that. What would an implication question be of a bunion? Gee, so does that bunion keep you from getting to exercise sometimes? Keep you from running?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, right? So that's kind of a bummer because you like to exercise and you like to run. Okay? Needs payoff. They couldn't use SBIB, which would be the benefits, which is what that should say. So they put an N and they made up a word called needs payoff. It means absolutely nothing. It means benefits. Because, let's see, if you could have, an exercise program that only took 12 minutes a week, didn't require you to be on your foot at all and gave you similar benefits to running with, might that be something you'd be interested in? Point is, do you guys see what I just did? Now, I learned a little bit about her as quickly as I could before I upset her, because you will. In any customer situation, only ask so many questions. Fact-finding questions. Next thing, I had to grab onto a problem somewhere. Then I asked questions about it. I didn't tell her what her problem was. I asked her about her problem. So she'd tell me more about it, looking for information. Then from those problems, and this is the hardest one, is those implications. Why don't I go right to benefits from problems? Because I want them to verbalize with me what will happen if they don't solve the problem. Right? Some of the implications, gee, I guess if you ran on that too long, wow, you might have to get your foot sawed off. The implication of that's bad. There's bad, negative implications to not solving the problem. By the way, you heard about this 12-minute workout thing? Doesn't require you to be on your feet. Okay, that's my point. Now when you look at that program, you start thinking, maybe if I had thought of that formula, I could have kind of worked my way through it. Now, obviously, back to my list, it wouldn't hurt if you're also just ripped dude standing there going, I do it too, a la the evangelist, right? So you got to live it, you got to breathe it, you got to be more interested in them than you are in yourself, and you got to ask them questions and pull them out. And that's a great starter for you for selling your ideas in your business. You guys, thanks. You've been a great audience. Good luck to you. And any questions before I go?
Questions?
And Pete's coming.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So let's do a 10-minute break? Yeah. 10-minute break, and then